Welcome to Somerset Showcase. Today we are going to be talking about the article on the special town meeting warrant for August 22nd that requests approximately $9.9 million in additional funds for the new Somerset Middle School project. Today we are here with Victor Machado, who is the chair of the Somerset Building Committee, Troy Randall, who is the architect for the middle school project, Daniel Tavares, the project manager for the middle school project, and Jeffrey Schoonover, who is the Somerset School Superintendent. So why don't we start off with, can you tell me how we've got to this point where we need to request another $9.9 million for the middle school project?
You want me to start?
Sure. Fill in.
We went out for bid for general contractor bids as well as subcontractor bids. The subcontractor bids came in high, and then the general contractor bids followed within a few weeks and also came in quite a bit higher, $9.9 million, including the alternates. Through research, the project team has been looking into this and contacting folks. We saw some changes in the cost of construction. We knew that this was happening across the Commonwealth. We've been tracking other projects along the way, but it's what's going on. It's what the market is happening. Like the general contractors are getting pricing from manufacturers, from vendors, from other subcontractors. And the prices are like 200%, 300%, 400% higher than what it was just a year and a half ago. So we're seeing big spikes in that regard. Labor is also a factor in here, as well as a lot of the long lead time of items. So contractors are doing what they can. This is a lump sum, so they're going to do what they can to protect their bid and make sure that they're covered, with any of these potential unknowns as the construction market is volatile, but it's what we're seeing. This is the trend right now. I don't know if you were looking for a little bit more detail, but in general, material cost, equipment cost, we saw a huge spike in electrical equipment cost. That drove up a couple of $1 million alone with the electrical subcontractor. And then with the general contractor, we saw some increases in site work, building materials that we would continue to take a look at in the future, but that's where I see most of the pricing coming in.
It seems like practically everything in the world is going up in price right now.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Yeah, every building sector, whether it's schools or any sector, construction costs are significantly increasing and have over that 6 to 12 month period, and most recently over the last 4 to 5 months, significantly increased costs. And it's happening all over the Commonwealth. Every district, every town that is bidding a project is dealing with the same situation.
I mean, just to go along with that a little bit further, like I said, we've all been tracking these projects that are going out, and it started off where a project was approximately 5% over back in March and April, to now another project that's down the Cape without even the general contractor bids are already 11% over. So they're, or is it 9%? I think it's 11%. So they haven't even received
$9 million.
$9 million, yeah, $9 million over 11%, and that's without the general contractor bid. So you can see the trend of what's happening here. When we were preparing to bid this project, we were trying to be more on the front end of it because we knew that as contractors were getting the work, prices would continue to kind of go up a little bit because they're not going to be as aggressive, and that's what you're starting to see now, and it's across the Commonwealth. So it's unfortunate, it's the timing, but this is what's happening, and it's affecting, as Troy mentioned, all sectors.
So the question that everybody is concerned about, obviously, is how much is this going to cost people in their taxes?
Well, we've had Hilltop Securities, and with the help of the town, we've reviewed all the numbers, and we've come to realize that it's going to affect every home that is assessed at an assessment of $100,000. For every $100,000, But an assessment, it's going to cost an extra $2 for this 9.9 per month. So we're looking at about $24 a year, $20 a year on an average assessed home.
And that's for the 9.9 million. What's the total cost going to be for the whole project for people?
You have that sheet?
Yeah.
So the total cost for the,
I believe it's 127.
are we looking
The
at
total
just the-
construction cost, or is that?
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, for the whole project.
All right, so
Yeah.
including what was already previously approved, and with this increase it's $127 a year, $11 per month based on $100,000 assessed property value. So the average assessed value in Somerset is $311,000. It's approximately $400 per year, $33 per month. That's the total.
And that's including the previously approved amounts. The amount, the district portion is $62.3 million of the total construction cost, which is just over $78 million.
Can you give me a summary of what you're going to build?
A summary of what we're going to build. Well, we're going to build the project that was approved by the voters back last year. That's the goal with the $2 a month per $100,000 assessed value, and that's the goal. The square footage of the project, 124,200 square feet, stays the same. The site package with all the play fields in that value stays the same as approved. The program within the project stays the same. The size of the increased or appropriately sized general classrooms and quantity of classrooms stays the same, with all of the modern 21st century amenities, with technology, with the square footage, with the acoustics, the mechanical systems, the ventilation, to the lighting, natural daylighting, artificial daylighting. All of the components that were identified within the original approved project will be the same. That's what the intention is for the additional 9.9 million.
Okay. And a question for Mr. Schoonover. From an educational perspective, how does this impact students in the classroom? How does this help them?
Well, if this vote and the ballot vote after are successful, then it impacts them with all of the great things that we were talking about a year and a half ago. State-of-the-art classrooms, a healthy building, a secure and safe building, modern classrooms, appropriately sized with all the amenities that we were talking about before, just that we don't have right now in the existing building. I think maybe on the flip side, if this vote isn't successful, is really looking at what are the reductions and what's the impact on students at that time.
So if the voters do vote against this, what happens then?
I think we've had a lot of these discussions, and I know there's a lot of work to be done, but right off the bat, we already know of some reductions that would have to take place. It would include every athletic field outside the building. We wouldn't have any. We would reduce the parking that we currently have planned by about 50%. We wouldn't have the auditorium. We would go back to what was one of the models we were looking at with a stage in the cafeteria for in-school performances or presentations, that sort of thing. So no auditorium. The project labs that we were talking about and showcasing in all of our earlier talks, one on each floor per grade level, those would be eliminated. And on top of that, it still doesn't get us to where we would need to go, and we would have to look at some other programs, which those are the tough decisions that we would have to make, but it would be a reduction of any combination of art, music, engineering, technology classrooms, either eliminating entire programs or significantly scaling back so that kids don't have the experiences that they currently do. That's where the educational program really suffers.
So it would not be the same school if you had to cut this much money out of it?
No, it would not.
Any possibility that MSBA, given that this is happening around the state, could come in and provide some more money?
Well, we've had many discussions with the MSBA, even among ourselves. Currently, right now, the MSBA is requesting information from the project managers. No, they can't make it. We haven't gone to the directors or the exec board, but to me, at this point, it's something that and I'm sure the school committees around the country, around the state, will be probably teaming up and asking for more funding, because one of the things that I always have said about the MSBA is probably one of the best run state office in this Commonwealth, but they also owe it to us taxpayers. And when I say us taxpayers, I mean all the Commonwealth. If we're paying 1 cent on the dollar, and they obviously saw the need for Somerset to have a new building project, they actually recommended us to look into a bigger project. And for them to continue to spend taxpayer dollars on a project that is not what they agreed on is kind of an injustice to all the taxpayers around the state. So I think I'm keeping a very close eye, because so far 2 communities have gotten the complete bid. One only had the the subcontractors, but I'm looking at all 20, and at that point, I think the 20 communities probably need to get together and knock at their door and say, you have an ownership as well, because we're looking to build a state-of-the-art building for our students. So when they leave our school and they head to the high school that we've already supported and built in, and we've seen the rewards of that school, for them to now ask us to no longer build that state-of-the-art school. Granted, we do need a new building. There is no ands, ifs, or what's about it. We do need a new building. But to give them a school that's just four walls, modern school, yeah, that's great. But losing programs, educational programs, is just unacceptable. And that's what I'm hoping that the taxpayers will also feel, that the information we give them, they feel that there is a value for that extra $2 a month.
And you're only doing this once every 50 years for this school too, so.
We hope this one lasts a lot longer than 50 years,
Yeah.
but it's another huge investment for Somerset and their future.
There is hope that additional funds could be provided. However, the discussions thus far have been that the MSBA will not participate in additional funding. Just to be clear.
But isn't this, you guys have been building schools for a long time. You built the high school in Somerset. Isn't this kind of an unprecedented situation in the state? Have you ever seen anything like this as far as the spike in
Never.
construction?
No, in 25 plus
Right.
years, we have not
Same.
seen anything like this.
Exactly. And that's the reason why I think MSBA was a little bit more receptive. When we met with them recently, with the managers, they were receptive to the concerns. They were hearing the concerns. They shared that other communities have also reached out expressing the same concerns as Somerset is. But of course, they reiterated that, historically, the MSBA, once the project funding agreement is set and the maximum grant amount is set by the board of directors, it doesn't go up. They never increase it. But it does seem like conversation is going on at the MSBA, and I think, eventually it'll get to the board of directors where they may consider something which would be unprecedented to match what's going on in the state with these construction numbers. So this is highly unusual. This is not, you may get a blip every now and then of bids coming in aggressively low and bids that are coming in. It's usually like a pocket that doesn't last. It's not like a constant. But when you look at the construction trend data, even if you get those little blips, it's in the upward trend line. What's going on right now is nothing that anyone could have forecasted, predicted, estimated, or assumed. It was just impossible to see so COVID had a big impact, right? And I think we're seeing even more impact now from COVID, from manufacturing plants shutting down, not being able to get labor in these facilities, not making product, you know what I mean? So this whole supply and demand of what's going on in the construction market, we build buildings with real materials, right? And it's, some of it is local, others are not, and I think that's what's driving everything, and it is unprecedented, and I'm sure it's happening across the U.S. as well, but we seem to be getting hit really hard right now because we also have a lot of work coming up. Not just the MSBA work. There's a lot of construction going on in Massachusetts, in neighboring states like Rhode Island and Connecticut. But it's pulling all the resources, which is driving all the prices up. Right?
And if you had to redesign this project, there would also be a delay in the schedule to get it done as well.
That's right. Yeah, it would at least be 6 to 8 months of delay, which, if you look at the current bid amount and what professional estimators are using for escalation, it would result in $3 to $4 million in addition to the overage that we're talking about that we would need to collectively remove from the project. And that's some of the things that Superintendent Schoonover was talking about was if the project needs to get redesigned and rebid, a lot of the components, all the components of the site, all site fields would need to get removed. Parking and educational program need to get removed from the project. We would need to go back to the MSBA and get approvals from the MSBA. We would need to redesign the project, reprogram the project. We would also need to develop the construction documents again and then take those and rebid. So we're looking at a minimum 6 to 8 months of delay, which would in turn delay the opening of school. And before that, there's no guarantee at that point that the project would come in on budget, given the circumstances that we're talking about. If it does, if it did pass at that point, then there's another delay of a year in the opening of school. So in lieu of 2024 opening, it would open in September of 2025. So there's another year delay. The only guarantee that we have right now is the bid from the general contractor, and that's the value that's the $78 million that was the low bid from Bacon Construction Company.
So, but if you redesigned, do you have to go out to bid again?
Yes.
So, and there's no guarantee that it will come in on budget again?
Correct, yeah.
Because the estimates are estimates, you know what I mean? So they're basing it on, they are projecting out escalation, building that in there. But, 6 months, 8 months from now, we don't know what the construction market's gonna look like, and whether or not contractors are already starting to fill up their books, and whether or not they're not gonna be as aggressive in pricing, or if we're still dealing with the same, unprecedented times with this construction market. So there's no guarantee with that. We're going to do our best to bring it in line with the budget by all the effort and all the measures that we just explained. But as Troy mentioned, the only guarantee is that we know what it's going to cost. We know now what it's going to cost. It's going to cost what the general contractor said it was going to cost, and those bids were relatively close, and they were relatively consistent, which was good. But that's what it's going to cost, and we know that with that information, the town can move forward and construct the school that they had originally approved with everything that was identified as part of the project.
And the other thing that's a little painful for us is that we were also very aggressive during our VE period. When we were at 60, 90, we reduced a total of how many million?
From schematic design.
Schematic design was $13.5 million.
So that was $13 million before this 9.9 has jumped into our plate as well.
In addition to that, even the measures that the committee took to mitigate costs by identifying the ad alternates. That was also a proactive measure to try to offset some of the costs, and that was about $2.4 million. So in total, it's over $15 million that was value engineered from the project through a very thoughtful process at each stage of the design process to in an effort to bring it in on budget.
Can you tell me what the problems are with the current middle school building?
I think we almost need another show for that. I know structurally, Troy can share a lot more information, but we can start from the 6th grade wing with the open classroom concept. It's not conducive to learning for our entire 6th grade class. It's that whole area. There are no walls. Classrooms are divided by 6-foot tall cabinets on wheels. That's one. The heating system is inadequate. This past year we had a couple of heating coils let go, causing some pretty significant flooding areas in our school, damaging a significant portion of our gym floor just in May, and we've recently repaired that, getting ready for the school year. But it just seems like every year there's just another thing that is going, that's reaching end of life. The roof is reaching end of life. The windows are still original to the building. Classrooms are undersized. Troy always had this great picture he used in all of our slides of one of the bathroom doors, and many of the doors are like this, but they're 23 inches wide coming in from the hallway. So in terms of ADA compliance, there's almost no compliance, I would say, in the building. We do have an ADA compliant bathroom, but we have one. We have a ramp that's not compliant. The list goes on, and Troy went through all of those, and Dan through all of those presentations that we had. And I'm sure
you hit a lot of them. That's impressive. And keep in mind that when the building was built, the original building and the addition, no codes existed. So the building code, the fire safety code, the only code that existed, and it wasn't prevalent, was not mass access, but ADA, Americans with Disability Act. And that was it wasn't even implemented, it was just a pilot version. And so we're talking about a lot of this existing building that doesn't meet current energy efficiency codes with the exterior envelope, the windows original, as Mr. Schoonover was saying, and the building systems original, completely beyond their useful life. Then the educational aspect of narrow corridors and classrooms that are undersized, or even specialized classrooms that are undersized based on MSBA state regulations and recommendations. And so there's a list of educational deficiencies, code deficiencies, mechanical system of building structural deficiencies as far as the building systems, and it's a pretty extensive list.
In terms of, if I would just add, the health and safety of the building too, or the air quality, and as Troy has said before, just the way water is not diverted away from the building. And we've talked many times over the last few years about the high moisture content in that building. It's on a fairly thin slab. A lot of moisture comes up through the floor. It's just, for whatever reasons, the humidity is always high in that building, and we have some measures in there to keep it down now. But it's sort of a Band-Aid on the problem at this point. And even in every classroom, just the air ventilation, the way it was designed, we have these units that get sucked in through closets into the top of a closet. It's just really these backward design features in the building that I can't imagine were effective or efficient back in the 60s when they were installed.
And how impactful they are with with what's going on with education, right? It's impacting your ability to deliver a 21st century education in a building that was built in the 20th century. and that suffers from all of those conditions. So,
The univentilators, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going to add that the univentilators that these guys are talking about in each classrooms are original, and they're loud. They do not meet the ANSI requirements for acoustics within a classroom, and so that has a direct impact on teaching and learning based on how a student or teacher can hear others in the classroom talking and communicating.
And they don't do a great job of heating or ventilating.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Unless you're standing right at it.
But with the moisture issues that we've always been hearing about at every beginning of school, when the school is pumping out 500 gallons of liquid every single day out of those dehumidifiers that we installed as a Band-Aid. But the other piece that Mr. Schoonover started off is that last year we had to repair our gymnasium floor because the school is still open. And that is another concern of mine, that if we open it in 2025 instead of 2024, that's another year of what may happen to that building that we're still going to have to maintain while the building project is going on. It's just completely, all these Band-Aids is just going to add and add to it as well. So,
Yeah, one of the things that people always bring up is the maintenance of the school buildings. Is there going to be a maintenance plan before this building is constructed for keeping it up?
absolutely. And one of the things, and I have to give one of the members of our board, Mr. Smith, Selectman Smith, at first he was hearing rumors that our current high school is already falling apart, and he asked Mr. Schoonover, can I go in and check? And anyone is welcome to come and see the building, see if it's not being maintained. The state wouldn't allow it. We have to. It's part of the plan. It's part of the plan that the state doesn't want to invest money on a building that's just going to be neglected. But I would ask anyone to go to any of our schools, even today, regardless if it's the elementary or even the middle school or high school. Our schools are being maintained. But the problem is the buildings are showing its age. You can maintain a car forever and ever and ever, but if you're using it, if you're putting on 200,000 miles, eventually that car is not going to survive. It's the same thing with the building. That building is open, 16 hours each day, and it's all year round with middle school, with summer school, and things like that as well.
At the time of the feasibility study and schematic design, the MSBA evaluates the maintenance plan and the condition of the building and buildings around, and they actually provide incentive points based on the upkeep and maintenance of their facilities, and it was a decent incentive. And they'll continue to monitor. There was a maintenance plan that was required to be submitted along with a lot of other data to the MSBA, and the MSBA, that's the thing with MSBA, they know that, around the state, there are these new schools being built, but if they don't have a maintenance and operations plan in place, then things are going to start falling apart. It's their money as well, they're investing in this as well, and they require that these buildings stay continue to be maintained for operation purposes as well as for maintenance.
Right, so Dan, just to make it clear, we received a
Yes,
bonus point.
You did. Yes.
1.22%.
Yeah, 1.22%.
Right.
For the maintenance plan.
Right.
So we were getting a higher reimbursement based on the maintenance plan that we submitted to them.
That's correct.
Some questions I see from people when they're looking at the overall costs of the school facilities is they want to know when the high school is going to be paid off, and are there plans for an elementary school, a new building for the elementary schools in the near future?
We can talk about the elementary schools first. We do have a capital and facilities planning group. We're actually going through the process right now of interviewing. We just interviewed a few architects in the last few weeks to come in to be what's known as a house doctor, someone who we can just go to for some design service needs. And we're going to be tackling some of the projects that we know our elementary schools need. Windows, for one. Something on some east work on the east side of North Elementary is another project. So we have identified some of these, and it's our goal to make sure that we make sure those 3 buildings last as long as they possibly can. We're all cognizant of the financial ability of the town to pay for these multiple projects that are very costly. As for the high school, I want to say, I think a lot of those were 25-year bonds, so I don't remember exactly. I think we have 5 bonds altogether. Most of them, I'm not sure if they were 25s or 30s, so those will all be coming off the book sometime the late, I guess sometime in the 2030 or so, give or take. I'd have to, does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense, right around there.
2014 it
Yeah.
opened up, so 25 years from now would be, yeah, the late 2030s, but I can get you that information.
And the figures you gave earlier were based on 30-year bonds.
That's correct, yeah.
And that will be a decision for the selectmen on the length of the bonds, whether it's 20, 25, or 30 years.
Exactly. Yeah, and Hilltop Securities, who's the town's financial advisor, had run the same number, run the numbers for 20, 25, and 30. We just chose 30 just to keep it simple and consistent as we're sharing the information.
And there is a debt exclusion election scheduled for September 24th. So based on what happens at the town meeting, how does that work?
Well, I guess it works in the same manner
it's the
as
same
the
manner.
original vote, so at town meeting, there's a request to, approve and authorize the $9.9 million, and then subsequent to that, the town needs to do a ballot referendum vote to be able to, I guess, borrow the money.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's, and it's a point that I think we've made earlier, but the town has already approved this project, and that's already been appropriated, not all borrowed, but some of it has been borrowed, and the town has already been receiving their reimbursement from the MSBA, and that's going to continue as we wrap up all of the design phases, and then once we go into construction, that'll just continue. So, I guess we just see that this being more of a similar manner of what happened then with town meeting, ballot vote, and then this $9.9 million will also be borrowed probably in close times, like within the next month or two. We've been communicating with Hilltop quite a bit lately to determine the schedule of when, because we also know that interest rates are going up, and they're monitoring that as well. And the rates that they use these numbers to estimate these numbers for the tax impact are conservative, but they need to be conservative because they also don't have a crystal ball, and they're trying to provide the town with as current information as possible without it being crazy numbers. So they're tracking things on their end. We're going to meet right after Monday's town meeting, depending on the outcome of that, and see what the next steps will be for the bonding.
What if the question at the town meeting fails, but the debt exclusion election passes? What happens then?
I believe if vote number 1 doesn't pass, there would be no reason for the ballot vote.
So there wouldn't be an election?
Right, that's right.
Right. And then we would take the approach of redesign.
And that's a big, and that's the key. If it fails, it's a redesign. It's, a lot of people think, well, this is going to stop the project. If it fails, the project will move forward. It's just that what everyone agreed on 18 months ago is not what they're going to be receiving. But the project will move forward one way or another. And for the $2 extra a month per 100,000, it's huge. It's either what you wanted, or do you build this? You build a brand new house, but you don't include the garage any longer. It's a big piece of your day-to-day items that you need, but it's not so much just the garage as the fields would be, but you're also eliminating your full bath to a a 3/4 bath. You're really reducing everything that a normal person, instead of the, tile floor, you might be putting linoleum type of thing. Think it as if you were building your own home. That's how I'm looking at it as a member of this committee and also a taxpayer. But the other piece is, I also know that Somerset, our taxpayers, cannot afford to continue to maintain the building that we currently have.
We've been talking about the Somerset Middle School project that will be voted on at the August 22nd special town meeting. Hope to see you there. Thank you for tuning in to Somerset Showcase. We will see you next time.